Today, we're diving into a text that makes a really provocative claim, that one of the world's biggest religions is actually an anti-religion, something designed to make all other faiths obsolete. It's a heavy idea, so let's break down exactly what the argument is.
So the source material comes right out of the gate with this statement. It's blunt, it's controversial, and it's the core idea that the entire text is built around. This notion that Islam isn't just another belief system, but a force specifically designed to cancel out all the others. And that's really the thesis we're going to dig into.
All right, so here's our roadmap for understanding this whole argument. First, we're going to look at the author's direct critique of other major religions. Then, we'll see how that critique fits into a much bigger prophetic view of history. And finally, we'll get to the most startling claim of all, the arrival of a new Messiah right here, right now.
Okay, let's start with the foundation of the author's case. This is all about how, according to the source, Islam fundamentally positions itself against other major world religions.
So how does the author build this anti-religion case? Well, they point to some very specific examples. They argue that Islamic prophecies, like predicting an end to Israel or a conquest of India, are just inherently antagonistic. The text also digs into core theological conflicts, like the Quran's denial of Jesus' crucifixion, which is, the absolute cornerstone of Christianity. And it points to historical actions like demolishing temples as proof of this whole negating principle.
And the author doesn't stop there. They contend that this adversarial nature is baked into how Islam historically spread. The source alleges that when lands were conquered, people were given this incredibly stark choice. You either convert, you pay a tax and live as a second-class citizen, or you die. The text really frames this as a fundamental method of coercion.
Now, this is a really interesting point the author makes, what they see as a huge contradiction. The text points to the ritual in Mecca where Muslims throw stones at a pillar, believing they're stoning the devil. But then it argues they turn around and consider Hindus, who see God in a stone, to be demonic. For the author, this is just a massive hypocrisy. How can you see evil in a stone, but not be able to comprehend seeing God in one?
So how does this argument become more than just a theological debate? Well, the author zooms way out, placing this entire conflict within a huge, cyclical view of history that's drawn from Hindu cosmology. This is where it goes from a religious critique to a cosmic battle.
The text introduces this concept of the Yugas. Think of them as great cosmic ages. It points to the age of Ramayana 7,000 years ago and the age of Mahabharata 5,000 years ago. And here's the key. The scriptures say both of those ages ended in a massive, world-altering war. The author says this sets the stage for the age we're living in right now, the Kali Yuga.
So what exactly is the Kali Yuga? According to this text, it's our modern era. It's defined by spiritual darkness, moral decay, and endless conflicts. And for the author, this isn't just some pessimistic view. It's the necessary darkness that has to come right before a prophesied new dawn.
So, within this chaotic Kali Yuga, the source lays out this idea of a spiritual battle against what it calls the devil. And this infiltration is a two-pronged attack. The first move is to push straight-up atheism. But the second, and the author argues more sinister approach, is to distort the very idea of God. And the text is explicit. It names Islam as the main vehicle for this distortion. Okay, so for in this age of decline, where's it all headed? Well, according to the text, we're headed for a kind of spiritual graduation. It proposes that humanity is destined for a much higher understanding called Sanatana Dharma. The author uses a great analogy. If other religions are like high school, Sanatana Dharma is the university. It's the next level that everyone's meant to reach.
And that leads us right into the final, and honestly the most dramatic piece of this whole argument, the claim that a messianic figure is here to kickstart this new age.
So this is where the author tries to tie it all together. They take prophecies from Judaism about a Messiah, from Christianity's Lord's Prayer about God's kingdom coming to earth, and from Hinduism. And they argue all these different threads are actually pointing to the exact same event, the arrival of one single divine king who will rule the entire planet. And here's the kicker. The text doesn't talk about this in the future tense. It states very clearly that this figure, called Lord Kalki, is already here. It claims his identity can be verified by 5,000-year-old prophecies, that he literally has the solutions to every world problem, that he's written a new economic blueprint, and that he's even started a pilot project in Nepal to prove it.
So what does this all mean? The crucial point is this. In the author's vision, when this figure arrives and God rules directly, all existing religions become totally obsolete. They're described as just curtains that stand between us and the divine. In this new age, there's no need for a middleman.
You go straight to the source.
So that's the argument in a nutshell. It's this incredibly ambitious, all-encompassing vision that tries to replace every belief system with a single unified story. And it leaves us with a really big question to think about. In a world that's so beautifully diverse, a world with so many different beliefs and cultures, what role do these kinds of prophecies, the ones that claim to have the one and only answer for everyone, really play?